Rick Revel, Mr. History, brought to you in part by Dixie Gun Works in Union City, Tennessee. The year after Tennessee became a state in 1797, the town of Port Royal was founded. Now, it was founded on the banks of the Red River, which is right down the trail from me. And this trail, it was called the Great Western Road. It was a stagecoach route at one time, but before it became a stagecoach route, it was a buffalo trail. It was also a trail for the Indians, and it was a trail for the settlers to go west. As the town grew, it became very prosperous, became a trade center. Matter of fact, at one time, they raised silk here. They had silk farms. They took the worms, put them up in the trees, they made the silk webs, and from that, they made the fabric. So it was a very prosperous area, and remained so until after the Civil War. And it became practically a ghost town after that. But there was something famous that did take place here, and it was because of this Great Western Road, this trail that I'm standing on. Something happened called the Trail of Tears. All the civilized tribes, because of the Indian Removal Act, were required to move west to the Oklahoma Territory. The Cherokee moved up the Trail of Tears, and they ended up in Port Royal, and they camped here. It is said that John Ross, who was among the people, his daughter had a grandson of John Ross, and it's said that the son was born here at Port Royal. Some historians think that the mother died and is buried somewhere in this area. Yet to prove that as fact, though. But where we're standing now, the Native Americans, the Cherokees, followed this road as they headed west to Oklahoma. On today's episode of History Highway, that is our story we're going to speak of. We're going to talk about the Trail of Tears. One, two, three. We're gonna drive in every day, and somewhere along the way, there's a road sign with a story from the past. History is everywhere, and I'm gonna take you there. So buckle up tight, we're going there real fast. So take a ride down the history highway. We're headed right to the days of old. So take a ride down the history highway. I got the pedal to the metal and I'm letting this Chevy roll. It doesn't matter if you're a reenactor who loves the smell of black powder in the morning on the battlefield, or a collector who admires the craftsmanship of a well-made weapon of old. Dixie Gun Works has a Pedersoli just for you. And not only does Dixie Gun Works have a warehouse full of Pedersoli reproduction firearms, they have an incredible collection of antique firearms. Inside the pages of their huge catalog, you will find gun parts, shooting accessories, reenactor clothing, camping supplies, and even some big guns if you like to burn a lot of powder. Dixie Gun Works is located in Union City, Tennessee. But for your convenience, visit our online store at www.dixiegunworks.com or call 1-800-238-6785. The Cherokee, Chickasaw, Choctaw Creek, and Seminole Indians were all part of the 5 civilized tribes. Christian missionaries, they went in to speak the gospel of Jesus Christ, and many within the tribes, they became Christians and adopted white man religion. Many would go on to speak English, take on English names, and even wear domestic clothing. Some would even live in frame-built homes. A few even lived in plantation homes and had black slaves. So if they were truly civilized, then why did they have to be removed? Why were they a threat? For thousands of years, they and their ancestors had lived on their own land, and now they had to be removed. In order to have a better understanding of the civilized tribes, we must go back to their beginning. Considered to be a part of the woodland Indian tribes, these indigenous clans claim to have lineage to the Mississippian mound builders. When you look closely at the mound builder map of the United States, you will see that the same area would eventually be occupied by many of the woodland tribes. The Adena, Hopewell, and Mississippian civilizations definitely share a kinship with them. They eventually evolved into a society where the women would farm the land and the men would hunt wild game. Mound building would fade into the past, but their worship of Mother Earth and their gods of nature would continue. Some historians claim the indigenous tribes were very peaceful before the arrival of the Europeans. A closer look, however, shows that human nature has a common thread. When hunting rights were infringed or transgressions went unchecked, war would break out between the tribes. And those who conquered others would oftentimes enslave the foes they defeated. So to say that the white man brought slavery to the Americas would be incorrect. By no means do we justify the institution of slavery, but the whole story must be told. Native Americans practiced slavery before the Europeans arrived. After Columbus made his voyage, it didn't take long for the word to spread of the riches that were found in the New World. When the Spanish conquistadors came looking for gold, the indigenous people tried to remain peaceful. However, though, when greed overcame the Spanish explorers, hostilities broke out, and the native people fought to protect their land. Faced with a new enemy who desired to enslave them, or worse yet, to annihilate them, the original people of the Americas had a difficult challenge. How do they survive the invasion of the bearded men on tall ships? As English and French settlers started to homestead many years later, the story was much the same. There would be periods of peace. Then, for some reason or the other, war would break out between the Indians and the settlers. During the French and Indian War, you had several indigenous tribes siding with the English or the French. Depending on the negotiation skills of the English or French officers, some tribes fought for both sides one time or the other. During the Revolutionary War, the situation was much the same. There were more than 80 nations and over 250,000 Native Americans at the time. Some tribes would side with the British, while others would side with the Continentals. After the War of Independence, George Washington and some of the other founding fathers desired for the Native Americans to prosper in the new country as well. And thus, the pathway toward the civilization of the indigenous people began. In order to be part of this new nation and its economic system, some tribes would adopt white man customs, along with English names and domestic clothing. For many, who were once called heathens, their gods of nature gave way to Christianity. Although violent conflicts still occurred between the United States government and multiple tribes of Native Americans, 5 emerged to be known as the civilized nations: the Cherokee, the Chickasaw, the Choctaw, the Muskogee Creek, and the Seminoles. The first civilized nations to sign a peace treaty would be the Cherokee, Chickasaw, and Choctaw. The Treaty of Hopewell was signed in 1785 by the Cherokee and in 1786 by the Chickasaw and Choctaw, and it contained the words, "The hatchet shall be buried forever, and peace given by the United States of America." Before the ink would dry on the agreement, white settlers were invading the sovereign territory of the Cherokee. A dozen more treaties would be signed by the civilized nations, and each one would be broken by the United States government. Resentment ran deep and hostilities flared as promises made went unkept. The Creek and the Seminoles would rise up, and war cries were heard once again east of the Mississippi. Once Andrew Jackson became president, his dislike of the indigenous people was crystal clear. All he needed was one excuse so he could have the civilized tribes removed. And that would take place in 1829 when gold was discovered in the hills of Georgia. When we return to History Highway, we're going to learn more about the devastating journey known as the Trail of Tears. The war between the states was the most devastating period in American history without a doubt. And during the Reconstruction years that followed, even more senseless pain and suffering was inflicted upon the South. From the pens of the Kennedy twins, who authored The South Was Right, comes a new book titled Reconstruction: Destroying a Republic and Creating an Empire. Within the cover of this 550-page masterpiece are 32 chapters with over 1,200 footnotes of documentation proving that 15 southern states were forced into a torture chamber known as Reconstruction. Existing to this very day, modern-era Reconstruction continues to affect everyone, regardless of the color of their skin, in one way or the other. To get your copy of this must-read book, go to www.kennedytwins.com. That's www.kennedytwins.com.
Many years ago, Discovery Park of America was nothing more than a dream for Robert and Jenny Kirkland. Located in Union City, Tennessee, this world-class museum and learning center is second to none. It doesn't matter if you're a teacher planning a class trip, a parent looking for a vacation stop, or an individual who loves history and science, Discovery Park of America is the place for you. From days gone by to the future and beyond, there is something for everyone, no matter your age or point of interest. Since the year 2013, well over 1.3 million visitors have visited our 50-acre, $100 million facility. What used to be a peaceful cornfield in the countryside is now a state-of-the-art destination for you and your family. For more information, go to www.discoveryparkofamerica.com.
Looking for a place to go? The Alabama Music Hall of Fame should be the next place on your bucket list. From the Swampers to Nat King Cole. From country music to the blues, there are music legends everywhere. The Alabama Music Hall of Fame is at 617 Highway 72 West, Tuscumbia, Alabama. The Alabama Music Hall of Fame, where the legends live.
And so it begins. Listen. A nation asked it of you. Listen. Please know that I feel no hatred in my heart for any of you. And I bring you no angry words. But I would touch your hearts. For I think your hearts are good. Therefore, for your own sake as well as ours, I would have you listen. Please listen. Just listen to what we have to say.
He is by blood 7/8 Scots. If he looks white to you, you are wrong. He is more essentially Cherokee than any other living person. He is John Ross, principal chief of the Cherokee Nation.
We who now come to you in weakness are the descendants of those from whom your fathers asked a little ground to give them shelter, and it was granted. And then the strangers grew and grew until they found that the land was too small for them. So we gave them more. And we gave them more and more until we found that what was left had become too small for ourselves, so we ceased to give. And then the strangers held counsel against us. They held counsel against us, for we were few and there were many. But all this you know. You know, too, that our red neighbors and brothers on every side who once filled this region are no longer to be seen. The very graves of their forefathers have been trodden by the white man whom they welcomed. Although he came with a mask on, they welcomed him. Amid the storm of his arrival, a small forest stood to desolation, and the wind is howling around it. Yet it's standing. We're that small forest. We are the only embodied people now remaining of the first natives of their native land. Countless nations disappeared before the white man. Only we are left. It's this of which I would speak. There was a time when, to talk after the manner of the white man, we, the Cherokee, were the possessors of upwards of 35 million of the finest acres in North America. Much of that which makes Alabama, Tennessee, Georgia, the Carolinas, and part of Virginia so precious, once belonged to us. With million after million of those acres, we parted to our brethren, the whites, whom we trusted even more freely. Because some came among us and dwelt and took wives, and they formed a part of ourselves. And their children and our children were as one. I know of what I speak. Listen, our white brethren think we're unkind to them because we won't give them the rest of our land. There are too few to fill even a small portion of the vast possessions they now hold. Yet they cry out for ours and say, we're so many and we have so little room. Well, we Cherokees then shake our heads and are sorry that they should be dissatisfied. But then they tell us they'll drive us away. We answer, no, you must be drunk. Look, here are our treaties with the United States. These promise us protection. That promise is a part of the payment you have given us for what you have already received from us and from our fathers. Brothers, you cannot break that promise. We know we ought to keep these promises, replies the General Government of the United States. But we have difficulties of our own. Some of our people want your land, and unless they get it, they'll clamor against you. Well, brothers, if you cannot agree among yourselves, we red men are very sorry, but what have we to do in the affair? Can wrong to us make right among yourselves? Cherokees, we are answered. You're only Indians, and you cannot expect us to quarrel among ourselves over you. We know we have made promises. Oh, yes, the white man is honest and a Christian. We know we're Christians, said the white man. We know we're honest. But don't expect us to keep promises made to you. You're only Indians. Listen. Such is the condition of our affairs with your country. The state governments harass us. The government in Washington City knows this, and they answer when we show the treaties. Remove. Remove, or your treatment will be worse. Remove, and we'll protect you. We strive to reason with you, but the eyes of avarice are gloating on our lands, and they can't see our wives and our children and the heartstrings that bind us to our sacred homes. Its coarse voice can utter but one sound. Remove.
And a few years later, I wound up in Alabama, not far from the same place, and this big snowstorm comes and I'm out hunting, and there's wolves after me, and I came down sick, and these two Cherokee, they came out to rescue me, and they nursed me back to health. And that's when I figured out that these men are no different than I am. I'd done the same thing if I'd been there, and they'd been wearing my moccasins. So, yeah. That's the day I decided if I could ever do anything to help my brother, the Cherokee, or the Creek, didn't matter. If I could help them, the civilized tribes east of the Mississippi, I'd do so. Well, years later, as a congressman, well, as you might know, President Andrew Jackson wanted to have the Indian Removal Act, and I voted against it. And believe it or not, we became political enemies, even more so than we had been. And it wrecked my political career. A lot of people in Washington couldn't forgive me. Even back in my own district, they couldn't forgive me. But I couldn't, my conscience wouldn't let me. My conscience wouldn't let me vote to have all these people moved off their land. We'd promised they could stay. But see, there was a gold rush in Georgia, and there were men in Washington that wanted that gold. So the Cherokee had to go, and so did the rest of the tribes.
The American buffalo, the bison, what a beautiful animal. And it's just, I can hear and see them running down towards the river, thousands upon thousands, and behind them, American Indians chasing them because they're synonymous with each other. The sounds are gone now, but in my new book, Native Voices, you can once again hear the sounds and the voices of the people. Native Voices by David Chaltis on Amazon.com.
Native American Voices by David Chaltis is full of wit and wisdom, straight from the words spoken by the original Americans. Get your copy today on Amazon.com.
When my mother was in college, she danced with Confederate veterans. To me, it wasn't that far away. My father knew this. My mother knew this. Almost 50 years ago, I joined the Sons of Confederate Veterans. In those days, we weren't concerned about saving monuments or any of those things. That wasn't necessary. In fact, none of us had any remote idea that it would ever come up, or we would have done something then. We can't just sit there and react. We have to be proactive.
The Sons of Confederate Veterans is the direct heir of the United Confederate Veterans and the oldest hereditary organization for male descendants of Confederate soldiers. Organized at Richmond, Virginia in 1896, The SCV continues to serve as a historical, patriotic, and non-political organization dedicated to ensuring that a true history of the 1861 to 1865 period is preserved. Membership in the SCV is open to all male descendants of any veteran who served honorably in the Confederate Armed Forces.
The political climate was perfect when President Andrew Jackson gave his first State of the Union address on December 8, 1829. He stressed in great length the need to remove the civilized tribes, so the expansion of the United States would not be impeded. Chief John Ross and other Cherokee representatives would go to Washington City to speak against the Indian Removal Act. Words of common sense and reason did not stand a chance. The die was cast. The civilized tribes would be removed, and with force if need be. Not desiring to leave their home, most of the Native Americans would be removed forcibly by the United States Army. The Creek and Seminoles would prove to be the hardest to remove, and war would break out once again. But sadly enough, manifest destiny would prevail. Stretching from 1831 till 1850, between 70 and 100,000 indigenous people of the civilized tribes were uprooted from their homeland. Zigzagging through 9 states and covering over 5,000 miles, the journey proved to be a death march for many. Some would die in concentration camps of cholera and other diseases. Then there would be those who would freeze to death from the snow and bitter weather. The lack of food and proper nutrition was a fatal flaw for many. In all, it is estimated that over 17,000 would perish during the journey. The entire area east of the Mississippi River that was once occupied by the indigenous people was now in the hands of the United States of America. And if things were not bad enough, before all the tribes could get their homes established, white settlers would find their way into the Forbidden Land. And that will be a story for another day. To some, the Trail of Tears is just a milestone in American history. To others, their wounds are yet to heal. On History Highway, our philosophy is very simple. American history, it can be good, bad, ugly, or have many points in between. But if we fail to study the past, we are destined to repeat those mistakes in the future.
My crew keeps me on the road from episode to episode, 'cause they all know I got a million stories to tell. I'm no dinosaur, it's cool to explore what makes a country great and put the crack in the Liberty Bell. So take a ride down the history highway. We're headed back to the days of old. So take a ride down the history highway. I got the pedal to the metal and I'm letting this Chevy roll. I got the pedal to the metal and I'm letting this Chevy